Have you ever wondered if the universe itself might be conscious in some way? It's a bit like asking if the world around us, from the stars in the night sky to the rocks on the ground, could somehow have its own form of consciousness. This is a pretty mind-boggling idea because we're quite certain that we, as people, are conscious. We think, feel, and experience the world. But when it comes to the universe, it's a whole different ballgame. Even if there was a universe with no consciousness to observe it, would it even exist? Is the universe alive? And even if it is alive, can the universe communicate? Are we a product of cosmic thought? The concept that the universe's consciousness may have played a role in the emergence of sentient beings like ourselves raises profound questions. Are we, as sentient beings, a manifestation of the universe's self-awareness? Or are we mere products of chance and cosmic evolution? Is consciousness fundamental to reality? Even if consciousness is fundamental to reality, does the universe at its core embody a form of consciousness that precedes and transcends individual sentient beings? According to Hawkins, your mind has access to a universal consciousness shared by all people, the universe's internet, to extend the computer metaphor. The idea of a communal pool of human knowledge is not a new one. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a collection of facts and beliefs that all humans share, seemingly without ever learning them. Religions have called it God, and they seek to access its knowledge either by understanding God's will, a common theme in Christianity, for example, or by uniting with God directly, as in Hinduism. Whatever term you prefer, Hawkins says your connection to the universal consciousness allows you to instantly know whether something is true or false, so long as you can receive and understand the universal consciousness's signals. In other words, it's the ultimate source of truth, and with a strong enough connection to it, you become effectively omniscient. Another possible explanation for this apparent omniscience is intuition, when your mind subconsciously processes information and arrives at conclusions without the need for conscious, rational thought. Psychologists say that your senses take in significantly more information than you're aware of, because your brain filters out irrelevant details. However, by reviewing this filtered information and looking for patterns and connections, your subconscious generates conclusions quickly and seemingly from nothing. You instantly know the truth, as Hawkins might put it. But what then is universal consciousness? Hawkins alternately describes the universal consciousness as something internal, buried deep within each person's psyche, and external, a single entity that we all connect to. This description departs from other interpretations that define consciousness as either internal or external. For instance, Jung's collective unconscious is internal. Jung theorized that everyone has some inherited beliefs, fears, and instincts in common, but not that human minds are connected to a single external database of information. On the other hand, God, in any religion, is an external being or force. Combining these ideas, Hawkins is arguably saying that the consciousness itself is external, but there's something hidden inside each of us that's able to link with it. As we'll see shortly, Hawkins defines the highest level of consciousness, enlightenment, as a state where we cease to think of ourselves as individual people, and instead, we become living extensions of the universal consciousness. In other words, enlightenment is when this internal-external binary ceases to exist. Hawkins developed a scale, what he calls the consciousness map, that measures the strength of your connection to the universal source of truth. According to Hawkins, the numbers indicate the energetic frequency of your consciousness, in other words, your consciousness level, with higher frequencies indicating more awareness and understanding than lower ones. This brings us to the theory of panpsychism. Panpsychism is the radical idea that everything that has elements of consciousness is re-emerging and breathing new life into a cold and mechanical cosmos. Derived from the Greek words pan, all, and psyche, soul or mind, panpsychism is the idea that consciousness, perhaps the most mysterious phenomenon we have yet come across, is not unique to the most complex organisms. It pervades the entire universe and is a fundamental feature of reality. According to Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, the 17th century German philosopher and a typical panpsychist, the world is composed of atoms of energy that are psychic. These monads have different levels of consciousness. In inorganic reality, they are sleeping. In animals, they are dreaming. In human beings, they are waking. God is the fully conscious monad. In 19th century Germany, Arthur Schopenhauer asserted that the inner nature of all things is will, a panpsychist thesis. Gustav Theodor Fechner, the founder of experimental psychology and an ardent defender of panpsychism, contended that even trees are sentient and conscious. In the United States, Josiah Royce, an absolute idealist, not only followed Fechner in affirming that heavenly bodies have souls, but also adopted a unique theory that each species of animal is a single conscious individual, incorporating into itself the individual souls of each of its members. However, some fresh arguments are aiming to change how we view the world in general, whether we are religious or not. One such argument is the Integrated Information Theory. The Integrated Information Theory, IIT, is a theory of consciousness developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. It proposes a framework for understanding consciousness, based on the idea that a system is conscious to the extent that it possesses a high degree of integrated information. While IIT primarily focuses on individual consciousness, it has implications for the broader concept of universal consciousness. The central concept in IIT is phi, F, which quantifies the level of integrated information within a system. Phi represents the amount of information that is irreducible and integrated, meaning it cannot be partitioned into independent components. Systems with higher phi values are considered more conscious according to IIT. Consciousness as a fundamental aspect. IIT posits that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality, not limited to biological entities. It suggests that any system, whether biological or artificial, can exhibit varying degrees of consciousness based on its capacity for integrated information. Universal consciousness as a limit case. In the context of the universe, IIT implies that the cosmos itself could, in theory, possess a level of consciousness. The idea is that the universe could be considered as a complex system with a high degree of integrated information, potentially leading to a form of universal consciousness. Holistic nature of consciousness. IIT emphasizes the holistic nature of consciousness. According to the theory, consciousness arises from the integration of information across the entire system, suggesting that fragmented or isolated components may not possess consciousness to the same extent. While IIT and panpsychism are distinct theories, there are points of intersection. Panpsychism suggests that consciousness is a fundamental property of all entities, while IIT provides a quantitative measure for consciousness. Some proponents of panpsychism find alignment with IIT in exploring the potential for a universal consciousness. IIT allows for the scaling of consciousness, suggesting that entities, from individual organisms to larger systems like societies or the entire universe, can be assessed in terms of their integrated information and corresponding levels of consciousness. In summary, the integrated information theory provides a unique perspective on consciousness, offering a framework to quantify and understand the degree of integrated information within a system. While the theory is primarily developed for individual consciousness, it opens the door to speculative discussions about the possibility of universal consciousness, aligning with broader philosophical inquiries into the nature of consciousness in the cosmos. The second argument is the quantum consciousness. Quantum consciousness is a speculative and controversial idea that suggests that quantum phenomena play a fundamental role in explaining the nature of consciousness. While quantum mechanics has been highly successful in describing the behavior of particles at the microscopic level, the application of quantum principles to the phenomenon of consciousness, including the concept of universal consciousness, remains a topic of debate. Proponents of quantum consciousness argue that the principles of superposition and entanglement in quantum mechanics may have relevance to the nature of consciousness. These phenomena involve the ability of particles to exist in multiple states simultaneously, superposition, and the correlation of properties between entangled particles. One prominent hypothesis within the quantum consciousness framework is the orchestrated objective reduction, OR theory, proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. According to this theory, consciousness is linked to quantum processes in microtubules, which are protein structures within neurons. OR suggests that quantum events in microtubules contribute to the emergence of consciousness. Quantum mechanics features non-locality, where particles can instantaneously influence each other regardless of the distance separating them. Some proponents of quantum consciousness argue that non-local effects could help explain the interconnectedness of consciousness, potentially extending to a universal level. Quantum consciousness proponents often suggest that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of complex biological systems, but is fundamental to the fabric of reality. In this view, consciousness is considered a foundational aspect of the universe itself. In summary, the argument of quantum consciousness regarding universal consciousness suggests that the principles of quantum mechanics may be relevant to understanding the nature and interconnectedness of consciousness, possibly extending to a universal level. However, these ideas remain speculative, and the application of quantum concepts to consciousness is a topic of ongoing research and debate within the scientific and philosophical communities. Non-emergentism. Non-emergentism is a philosophical position that rejects the idea that certain properties or phenomena, such as consciousness, can be entirely explained as emergent from more basic physical processes. In the context of universal consciousness, non-emergentism proposes that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of complex systems, but is inherent or fundamental to the nature of the universe itself. Non-emergentism suggests that consciousness is not a byproduct or emergent property of physical processes, but is instead inherent to the fabric of reality. It posits that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe, present at all levels of existence. In the context of universal consciousness, non-emergentism argues that consciousness is not something that arises at a certain level of complexity, as suggested by emergentist views, but is an irreducible and foundational feature of the cosmos. Non-emergentism often takes a holistic perspective, emphasizing that consciousness cannot be reduced to or explained by the sum of its parts. The interconnectedness of all things in the universe contributes to a more comprehensive understanding of consciousness as an integral aspect of reality. Non-emergentism can have metaphysical implications, suggesting that consciousness plays a role in shaping the very nature of reality. It challenges reductionist views that seek to explain consciousness solely in terms of physical and material processes. In summary, non-emergentism contributes to discussions about the nature of consciousness in the universe by proposing that consciousness is not an emergent property, but is intrinsic and fundamental. This perspective challenges reductionist and purely materialistic explanations, inviting a broader exploration of the metaphysical foundations of consciousness within the cosmic context. Although these theories are not perfect, they do point to a wide range of possibilities in the cosmos. So is the universe conscious? For centuries, modern science has been shrinking the gap between humans and the rest of the universe, from Isaac Newton showing that one set of laws applies equally to falling apples and orbiting moons, to Carl Sagan intoning that we are made of star stuff, that the atoms of our bodies were literally forged in the nuclear furnaces of other stars. Even in that context, Gregory Matloff's ideas are shocking. The veteran physicist at New York City College of Technology recently published a paper arguing that humans may be like the rest of the universe in substance and in spirit. A proto-consciousness field could extend through all of space, he argues. Stars may be thinking entities that deliberately control their paths. Put more bluntly, the entire cosmos may be self-aware. The notion of a conscious universe sounds more like the stuff of late-night TV than academic journals. Called by its formal, academic name, though, panpsychism turns out to have prominent supporters in a variety of fields. New York University philosopher and cognitive scientist David Chalmers is a proponent. So too, in different ways, are neuroscientist Christoph Koch of the Allen Institute for Brain Science and British physicist Sir Roger Penrose, renowned for his work on gravity and black holes. The bottom line, Matloff argues, is that panpsychism is too important to ignore. 3 decades ago, Penrose introduced a key element of panpsychism with his theory that consciousness is rooted in the statistical rules of quantum physics as they apply in the microscopic spaces between neurons in the brain. In 2006, German physicist Bernhard Heisch, known both for his studies of active stars and his openness to unorthodox science, took Penrose's idea a big step further. Heisch proposed that the quantum fields that permeate all of empty space, the so-called quantum vacuum, produce and transmit consciousness, which then emerges in any sufficiently complex system with energy flowing through it. And not just a brain, but potentially any physical structure. Intrigued, Matloff wondered if there was a way to take these squishy arguments and put them to an observational test. One of the hallmarks of life is its ability to adjust its behavior in response to stimulus. Matloff began searching for astronomical objects that unexpectedly exhibit this behavior. Recently, he zeroed in on a little-studied anomaly in stellar motion known as Paranigo's discontinuity. On average, cooler stars orbit our galaxy more quickly than do hotter ones. Most astronomers attribute the effect to interactions between stars and gas clouds throughout the galaxy. Matloff considered a different explanation. He noted that the anomaly appears in stars that are cool enough to have molecules in their atmospheres, which greatly increases their chemical complexity. Matloff noted further that some stars appear to emit jets that point in only one direction, an unbalanced process that could cause a star to alter its motion. He wondered, could this actually be a willful process? Is there any way to tell? If Paranigo's discontinuity is caused by specific conditions within the galaxy, it should vary from location to location. But if it is something intrinsic to the stars, as consciousness would be, it should be the same everywhere. Data from existing stellar catalogs seems to support the latter view, Matloff claims. Detailed results from the Gaia Star Mapping Space Telescope, due in 2018, will provide a more stringent test. Mind out of matter. While Matloff looks out to the stars to verify panpsychism, Christoph Koch looks at humans. In his view, the existence of widespread, ubiquitous consciousness is strongly tied to scientists' current understanding of the neurological origins of the mind. The only dominant theory we have of consciousness says that it is associated with complexity, with a system's ability to act upon its own state and determine its own fate, Koch says. Theory states that it could go down to very simple systems. In principle, some purely physical systems that are not biological or organic may also be conscious. Koch is inspired by integrated information theory, a hot topic among modern neuroscientists, which holds that consciousness is defined by the ability of a system to be influenced by its previous state and to influence its next state. The human brain is just an extreme example of that process, Koch explains. We are more complex. We have more self-awareness. Well, some of us do. But other systems have awareness too. We may share this property of experience, and that is what consciousness is, the ability to experience anything, from the most mundane to the most refined religious experience. Like Matloff, Koch and his colleagues are actively engaged in experimental tests of these ideas. One approach is to study brain-impaired patients to see if their information responses align with biological measures of their consciousness. Another approach, further off, is to wire the brains of two mice together and see how the integrated consciousness of the animals changes as the amount of information flowing between them is increased. At some point, according to integrated information theory, the two should merge into a single, larger information system. Eventually, it should be possible to run such experiments with humans, wiring their brains together to see if a new type of consciousness emerges. Despite their seeming similarities, Koch is dubious of Matloff's volitional stars. What is distinctive about living things, according to his theory, is not that they are alive, but that they are complex. Although the sun is vastly bigger than a bacterium, from a mathematical perspective it is also vastly simpler. Koch allows that a star may have an internal life that allows it to feel, but whatever that feeling is, it is much less than the feeling of being an E. coli. On the other hand, even systems that we don't consider animate could have a little bit of consciousness, Koch says. It is part and parcel of the physical. From this perspective, the universe may not exactly be thinking, but it still has an internal experience intimately tied to our own. In contemplating the concept of universal consciousness, we find ourselves at the intersection of philosophy, metaphysics, and speculative inquiry. The idea that consciousness extends beyond individual beings to encompass the entire cosmos sparks profound questions about the nature of existence and the fabric of reality. While the notion of universal consciousness is captivating, it remains a highly speculative and controversial topic, inviting both wonder and skepticism. The exploration of universal consciousness has led us through various lenses, From panpsychism's suggestion that consciousness is pervasive at all levels of the universe, to integrated information theory's attempt to quantify consciousness within systems. Quantum consciousness adds a layer of complexity, intertwining the principles of quantum mechanics with the nature of subjective experience. Non-emergentism challenges reductionist perspectives, asserting that consciousness is not a mere emergent property, but an intrinsic aspect of the universe. In these philosophical musings, the boundaries between the subjective and the objective blur, and the very essence of what it means to be conscious takes on cosmic dimensions. The concept of universal consciousness serves as a thought-provoking exploration rather than an established scientific fact. As we navigate the frontiers of knowledge and understanding, the quest for a deeper comprehension of consciousness at the universal level remains a journey filled with uncertainty, speculation, and the allure of the unknown. Whether universal consciousness is an emergent property, an inherent aspect of reality, or a blend of both is a question that continues to beckon us toward the edges of our intellectual and metaphysical capacities. As we navigate these uncharted waters, the pursuit of knowledge and the contemplation of universal consciousness stand as testaments to the enduring human curiosity that seeks to fathom the mysteries of existence. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.